Hey everybody, it's me, Liana. Long hiatus from video blogs. You'll notice this is a little lower production values than my previous videos. That's because the other videos were taking too long, so we're making them look really super pretty and producing maybe one a month. And that's not sustainable, and this way I get to put a rabbit in the background cosplaying Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs. Can you spot him? It's not hard. Anyway, so I just got back from E3 about a week ago. I spent 4 days after that being hellishly sick, which is part of the E3 experience that most people don't talk about. But something else happened at E3 that is kind of nagging at me. It won't go away. It keeps wanting to come out as little thought bubbles, which sometimes they're smelly, but that went in a way I didn't want it to go. Anyway, a lot of you may have seen the controversy surrounding Ubisoft's lack of female playable characters in both Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. And the source of the lack of female characters is apparently a technical issue, not a lack of will on the part of the developers. Some people are saying BS to that. They should have done it anyway. That's neither here nor there. The thing I find curious is that everybody's engaging on this massive pile-on Ubisoft. Well, other developers aren't even trying to show people who aren't white men in a more relatable light and just getting a complete pass on it. And the classic example of that is obviously, the much anticipated Witcher 3 game that showed 5 men, I think it was 5 men, beating the crap out of an unarmed woman, and the protagonist, I always forget whether his name's pronounced Geralt or Geralt. It doesn't really matter because he wouldn't remember my name either in the Witcher universe. So the woman then picks herself up, brushes herself off, busted lip and all, and proceeds to have a conversation with our whiter than white hero like it's Wednesday. And people are just piling up on Ubisoft and giving CD Projekt Red an absolute pass on what I think is much more problematic behavior based on the Killer Instinct thing from last year. And guys, we can't be selective in who we gang up on and expect there to be any meaningful change. When you get that, you just get people panicking and going, they just step away from the thing completely. You missed me doing jazz hands there. That's my version of panic, jazz hands. Anyway, the problem with being picky-choosy about who you hold up to criticism is, historically we've seen, it discourages companies from trying. Because if a game like The Witcher gets a pass for not even attempting to be inclusive and not even attempting to tell kindler, gentler stories, they're going to keep doing it. And if the market sees them being rewarded for avoiding the issue completely, while a company like Ubisoft, which, let's face it, they're one of the better companies in terms of diversity, keeps getting this bad press, well, that's going to encourage the entire market to not try. And I'm not blaming the victim here, because this is a cultural thing. Either there are no victims or everyone's a victim. We can't talk about culture and then start isolating individuals. It's a logical fallacy. You can't do it. Culture is culture. It's this big amorphous thing that's visible and invisible at the same time. It's only visible by proxy, meaning you only see the results of culture. You can't see culture itself. There isn't this big, monolith a la, civilization going, I am a culture building. No, that doesn't exist in the real world. It happens. It's a force. And so if we're hypercritical on the companies that are trying and just ignore the companies that don't as, oh yeah, that's just them, well, guess who profits from that situation? The other issue I had with the Witcher trailer, and I want to be really, really clear. When I talk about these issues, I am not going good game, bad game. It's very hard to make a truly terrible game in the modern video game marketplace. It has to go through so many playtests that a AAA game is going to have something notable, that's a positive about it, because people have to get their hands on it before it's shipped to market, and developers do listen to the feedback they get from playtesters. So I'm not playing good game, bad game here, and unfortunately we get caught up in those derivative arguments far too often in video games. What I'm saying is that in a game like The Witcher that has, let's face it, not great depiction of women, and you can argue the root of that all you want. You can also say that, you know, gay people don't get off great, and bad pun. And it's true that the only gay man in The Witcher 2 was a creepy necrophiliac wizard. So yeah, The Witcher's got a lot of issues with it. But within game, I believe in free market principles. This is the same stance I take on something like Grand Theft Auto as well. I'm not going to reward it. I don't think that artistic awards should award games like this just because they're lazy narratives and they're lazy ludo narratives. The gameplay in things like GTA and things like The Witcher is also lazy, because you can have all the problematic social content you want in a game if you give the player choice about what to do about it. If a player can react to a horrible event in a meaningful way, even if they can't influence the macro proceedings in the game world, the metagame, so to speak, if you have that freedom to make small impacts on the world that is in keeping with your moral compass, it makes a huge difference. And both, you know, Grand Theft Auto and The Witcher deny players that choice because both games have an inherent, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say agenda because I don't know, and I don't want to say bias, but I don't, because I don't know either. I'll say blind spot that way. But this is besides the point. Tangent alert. Sorry, guys. That's a minute of your life you won't get back. The issue with what's in game that can be avoided by someone who's dealing with post-traumatic stress, who's dealing with trauma triggers. People research games. They have friends looking out for them. They can avoid that content. When you have a woman having the crap kicked out of her by 5 men in a gameplay trailer that you put in a press conference, that's a whole different ball of wax. That is ignorant, and it's insensitive. And I think these things should be the focus, especially since Microsoft knows better. There was a huge brouhaha last year over a line, over words. I mean, those words, I won't repeat them because it is a trigger for people, but those words are given relevance by culture. They have no inherent meaning in themselves. We provided those words with context, and people went nuts. And in some cases, rightly so. It's a trauma trigger. It shouldn't have happened in a public forum. So why is this Witcher trailer any different? If you apply the same logic, you get, this is a problem and it shouldn't have happened. And I think fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me applies here. We've had this discussion, guys. But everybody got so distracted by Ubisoft, unfortunately I think because it's a company who's trying, and everybody's sort of jumping on the companies that are trying to make an effort, expecting perfection, when diversity and inclusion has always been a work in progress. So we're getting near the 10-minute mark here, and I don't like to go over that. So I'm sure there will be comments, and I'm sure that we'll continue this discussion because it's been going on Twitter too. But the moral I want to get across here, I hope people take to heart, is if you actually care about problematic content in games and games getting better, you can't give games a pass just because you personally like them. I mean, there are plenty of games that I personally like, or I see things, it's like, maybe not so much there. But, and now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And that's my video for now. See you guys later.